All right, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to the show. Super pumped to have you here. And today we have a really special guest for you that I can't wait to introduce. She's actually the owner of the MALM Life and Health Insurance Agency, and she works together with her mom, helping families and businesses with their financial protection needs, something that's super important. All of this is done digitally as well. So you as the client can actually be in your home or your office taking care of these important matters. And she also has a podcast, which is amazing. It's called the 12-Minute Talks podcast, where she interviews other Florida-based business owners and entrepreneurs to talk about what they do to help others solve their problems in such a short time period of 12 minutes, which is a really nice bite-sized chunk of time. So definitely recommend you check out that podcast as well. But please welcome to the show today, Lorena Tomasini.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me on, Corey and Nathan.
Definitely.
Welcome. We're excited to have you on.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Thank you for taking time out of your day, Lorena, to come on the show and hopefully share some of your experience and wisdom with our listeners. We're all on this journey of entrepreneurship together. So I always like to kind of start this off this way. It doesn't really matter, where you're at in this journey, whether you're just getting started or you've been on it for a long time, right? We're all kind of in this together. And when we can share our stories and our experience with each other, it just helps us all grow. So I definitely appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think the entrepreneur journey is different for everybody, but there's a lot of parallels that we can all learn from.
Absolutely.
So I'm curious about how I probably just interrupted Corey's mojo, but I'm curious how you got into entrepreneurship. You're helping people with your mom. So is this something you guys started together? Did she start it and then you come on? How did Mom come together?
Yeah, that's a great question, Nathan. So my mom had been in the insurance industry a long time. Before I started in 2006. And I started because I was going to college at the time. I was studying business administration, finance. That was my major. And my mom needed an appointment setter one summer. So I'm like, okay, I can help you set appointments. I've been told I have a good phone voice, and I had worked at a call center before selling phones over the phone. And I was like number one on the team. So apparently I was doing something right. So I had some experience there, so I helped her out. And then one day I went with her to see more in detail what she did. And I really liked it because I'm like, man, you really help people, and it's just filling out paperwork, and it fell in line with what I was studying. So I really thought it was going to be just something part-time because I could have flexibility of my time as well with school. So that was important. And, and then the stock market crashed and all that stuff back in 2008. And I'm like, I don't really think I want to be like an investment advisor or like a stockbroker, which is what I really thought studying finance, So I just kept doing life insurance, and then health insurance with the Affordable Care Act. I really believe in that. So I really saw the impact that had on people's lives every day as well. So yeah, I just kept with it. And, a lot of people think, oh, it's insurance, it's a sales job, but they don't realize, all the entrepreneurial things that go behind the scenes to get a client, to have referrals and all that good stuff, So yeah, that's how we started 14 years ago now.
That's awesome. So, well, here's what's interesting about that is, to me anyway, you're like you said people don't necessarily think how much entrepreneurial stuff goes into just selling insurance and stuff. But the thing is most of us would agree that typically insurance is boring, right? Like, but you have to create content around this. Like we're all, so many of us as rising entrepreneurs, we struggle with creating content and coming out there, and how do we bring our A game? How do we educate the market and help them understand that we're here to help them? Right. And so you've got a podcast that you're interviewing local businesses, and that gets you a way to get in front of people in a non-boring, interesting way, a way to meet potential clients and different people. And I just, so how did you go about, that's my question. How did you go about trying to make insurance interesting for your clients and for the people you serve?
Yeah. So for the past 4 or 5 years, we've been doing things over the phone or the computer, because the traffic in Miami here is crazy. So that, we will be driving to people's houses and then they would forget we were coming. Or at one point, my mom and I had an office as well. And then it's like, oh, we're there from like 9 to 6, and all that stuff. And we're like, all we're doing is people are just coming and seeing us, but we're really in front of a computer. So that's when I really realized, if we could convert our business to fully digital and over the phone, which we had been doing already, but not, entirely, um, we could help more people, right? And then it would be easier for them because they don't have that hindrance of, oh, I have to be somewhere at 4 o'clock or something like that, right? So that's one thing, we make it easier for people to work with us. But to make it interesting, I think story selling, like they say, is really important because people could relate more to a story than if I give you numbers, right? Like if I tell you 80% of people, this happens to them, you're going to think, yeah, that's not going to be me, right? But if I tell you a story about somebody maybe around your age that something similar happens, well, you have more empathy, right? Um,
Right.
so to me, that's important. And then thinking outside the box, because we all know these things are important, but maybe we don't have the time for it, or we're not interested, it goes over our heads, right? But if we make it a way that it's interesting for people to at least have a conversation about it, it just makes it better for them and for us as well, you know.
Mhm.
And I think, the podcast, you brought it up, I really started the podcast because I had wanted to be on podcast last year. you know I'm very tech savvy, and um, I listened to a few podcasts and I'm like, oh, okay, so you just put an intro, you interview somebody, and then you put an outro. I know some audio editing software, I could do that. And I had been having a hard time getting on podcasts because people thought, oh, it's insurance, you're just going to try to sell insurance. I'm like, no, it's information that people need. If they want to call me, that's fine. I don't care. They can reach out to somebody else, but it's just information, right? But once I started saying, oh, I host a podcast, then people were like more interested in having me on. I guess, maybe it was my own mental block. I don't know. But yeah, and it's been a great way to help people locally in the community as well with their
That's
own
awesome.
marketing. Hmm.
So
Yeah,
there was
that is fascinating.
in did you in the intro, so you have a finance background, and then
Yeah.
you're also helping people with health insurance, and what else, like what are all the services?
Yeah. So we help people with health insurance, which we all know what that is, right? To protect
Mhm.
your pocket in case of something happening. And with COVID going on, everybody's like worried, about that. But we also specialize in something called life insurance with living benefits. And what that is God forbid, in case of something like a critical illness like cancer, heart attack, stroke, instead of making like a GoFundMe page, which I see often, you can use part of your death benefit now to help you with your bills. So, you get a $500,000 death benefit and you can accelerate part of that now to help you pay for your bills instead of having to depend on strangers to help you and your family out. It's a reality. Like, it breaks my heart every time I see young people, like in their 30s or 40s. Cancer is something that it affects everybody. We all know somebody that's been affected by that. Personally, my dad had cancer, and I saw what that meant financially for us as a family, to not be prepared for a diagnosis of that, because a lot of people survive that, but financially, you're not prepared. So yeah, so that's I'm really passionate about that with the life insurance, and then yeah, health insurance. It's just a lot of education.
No, that's interesting because like it's rising entrepreneurs, right? Like you're with me, rising. Like we're all like the GoFundMe page. We're like, okay, I'll just market it. Like if something happens, I'll go ahead and like market my way, into the thing that I need. And but but we're also as entrepreneurs and running our own thing, everything falls on us. So if
Yeah.
something goes wrong, if you do get right, um having things set up financially so that you are secure is great. And some of us, like I'm a technician and an artist at what I do. That's why I have a business. But I'm not good at that stuff. I'm not good at knowing how to protect myself and how to set myself up financially. So I think those things are important in the game as far as for us as rising entrepreneurs. And I think knowing different tools is important for everybody, of course. But let me ask you, so you transitioned everything to over the phone and online to serve your clients easier, faster, better, right? And how's that worked for you? What are the biggest challenges you faced, and how's that working for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think at first, my first challenge was just me, because I was in the habit of being like, hey, let's meet at a Starbucks or meet at your house or whatever, right? So I had to like retrain myself to not say that, right? To just be like, okay, cool. Then Tuesday at 10, I'll give you a call, right? Make sure to put it on your calendar, right? Because it's an appointment, whether we're seeing ourselves or not. So definitely that was the first step. And then technology has helped a lot, because companies have made it easier with electronic applications and e-signatures for us to be able to do that. So yeah, I try to make it as easy as possible for the client. Like, I'm not going to do a video chat unless they request it, or I know there's somebody comfortable with that. But for the most part, it's just traditional phone things, and then I can email them whatever paperwork they want to look at, or I need to send them, right? Yeah.
So
This
how did
is,
your
hang on,
business
I want to jump in
Yeah,
here real
please.
quick, because this is actually a good point. I think for a lot of people that are, local business owners, or maybe they have a brick and mortar business at the moment, and they're looking for ways, especially like we talked about with COVID, right now, everything's kind of crazy. And a lot of people are trying to look for ways to come online. They're trying to look for ways to digitize their business. And I think it's, we're kind of just glossing over of how easy you make it seem. Like you said, you've got this tech background. Oh, podcast, that's no big deal. Just a little audio, a little editing here and there. Like, actually, for a lot of people, that is really complicated, right? So, I don't want to gloss over how what you've done is such a huge deal. I mean, let's be real. Like, if it was still your mom running this business, do you think right now that she would be digitally? Would she be online? Would she have been able to figure that out?
Yeah, honestly, our industry, the typical agent out there is like in their 50s or older, right? It's not very common to see people in their 20s or 30s selling insurance, right? It's
Right.
not, nobody looks up to, oh, I want to do that when I grow up, right? So yeah, I definitely don't think, yeah, that's a great point, Corey. But yeah, I don't think they would have that. I do know I have a natural ability for tech stuff. I just do. I don't know. Like, it's just something I have. Um, but I think people give up easily. Like, they'll put two videos up, and nobody liked it or whatever. But I say, it's not about that. You don't know who saw your video, who maybe never clicked like on it, but they might email you or call you a month from now, because you know what, now I need to get this taken care of. So I try to make it easier for my client, and since I work with my mom, I try to make it as easy for her as well, for her to service her client. So we both use the same system. That way, it's easy. Like, I've taught my mom Excel, and she picked it up quick. And things like that. But yeah,
That's
it's definitely
awesome.
a learning curve. But just be patient. Which I'm not
100%.
a very patient person, but I try as
Yeah.
much as possible.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I think I want to touch on something you just mentioned, that people really do give up too easily, especially when it comes to creating content. This is one of those things that we become very vested in personally, right? Because when we're putting our face out there and we start putting out content, now we're all of a sudden worried about the critics. We're worried about what people are going to think. We're worried about what we're saying. If we look good, if we don't look, are we being professional? All of these things, right? And we end up getting in our own way. And so I just really want to appreciate what you just said, that people will put up a few videos. They won't get the thousands of likes that they see everybody, on Instagram getting or whatever. And then they realize, they come to the conclusion that, oh, it's a failure, it doesn't work for me. And then they just stop. So
Yeah.
for you, Lorena, I'm interested to know, how long were you putting up content before you actually started seeing some, engagement and people, actually starting to come to you in terms of A, wanting to work with you, but B, just I know this has to be happening because I think for every content creator that's out there creating content that's truly valuable for their audience, you'll start to receive thank you letters, right? You'll start to receive impact that you're having on people. And again, like you say, they may not be liking or commenting on the video itself, but they'll reach out to you in other ways. So I'm just
Yeah.
curious, how long did it take you before you started actually seeing results from, the work that you're putting in online into the content side of things?
Yeah, that's a good question, Corey. So I'm gonna be honest, I don't really track that type of stuff, but I would say maybe, a few months, like six to 7 months.
Okay.
I got like a really big client from LinkedIn, and I can only assume it's because he saw some content I put out there. Um, but yeah, I think persistency is really important, and just keep doing it, and get feedback from your friends and from maybe a colleague or something like, hey, can you watch my video? What do you think? How can I improve? Things like that. Um, yeah, so I think it's just being persistent and always creating new content. And you don't have to always create new stuff. You can say what you said before, but in a different way, or maybe write it out in a blog post and share that.
I love
So you can repurpose your content in more than one way. Record it, and then there for people that like to listen to things. And I always think like, okay, maybe this video only got 30 views, to put like a number that's not right, 1 million views or whatever, right? um if you think about, in the real world, if you were calling people, you would need to make 30 calls to reach 30 people, but realistically you might need to call 60 to talk to 30, right? If we're looking at numbers. Again, I studied finance, so I'm a numbers
Yeah.
person, right? So it's great. Okay, I posted a video and 30 people saw it. Well, hey, that's 30 calls I don't need to make now,
Yeah,
and
that's a
you
good
don't
way to
know.
look at it.
Yeah.
I look at it. I look at it. Sean Stevenson, famous speaker, put it a darker way once at a ClickFunnels that I've kind of looked at, and he said, "Okay, so you put up this video. I believe it was him that said this, but you put up this video and you got 11 views. Nobody ever said, oh, there was a school shooting, only 11 people got shot. How do you, why are you going to say 11 people isn't important? How do you know whose life you're changing? If you change 11 lives, if you saved one life out of the 11 because
Right.
of your content, if you helped one person, then because we all do, we look at those grandiose numbers and we
Yeah.
look at these, oh my God, but who are you touching, right? How many people are you getting? So but I love your way of looking at it. Of how many calls would you have to make to reach this number of people?
Right.
Right.
I really like where we're going at with this conversation right now, because this is something that that a lot of people have completely blown out of proportion in their mind, thanks to some of the marketers that are out there just spouting these huge numbers. Okay. The reality is 1,000 true fans, right? And I don't know exactly who wrote that, but I know it's a book and it's an idea and the whole thing. But like,
It's an article, Kevin
yeah,
something. Yeah.
all you need really is 1,000 true fans to have a thriving business. You know what I mean? And so you don't need 100,000 people following you on Instagram to be successful, right? You can be putting out videos like Lorena in the insurance industry, getting 30 to 40 views a video, and I'm sure you're getting more than that now. But like you said, those are 30 individual people. Those are 30 lives. Those are actual people. They're not just numbers on some social media platform. They belong to a human being, and you are changing their life in one way or another. And then leveraging your time too. Like you said, if you had to individually contact and reach those people, I mean, that could take you weeks, if not months, to actually get 30 people's ears to have, an interest in what you're saying. So I love that you put it that way. And one other thing I want to touch on is you mentioned that you're not actually tracking this stuff, right? So which tells me that you have the right intention behind your content. You're literally out there only trying to help people and trying to change, their perspective and maybe their viewpoints on insurance and sort of how it can help them in their life. And to me, like, that's really where it starts from. Nathan and I have this conversation a lot internally. It's like, for me, it's all about the intention, right? Why are you doing this? What's your intention behind it? Because when your intention is pure, then it works. It always works, you know?
Yeah, I totally agree with that, Corey. And I always say, like, okay, you see like these influencers on social media, right? With like, I don't know, a whole bunch of views. But my question always is, well, how many sales are these people getting from all those likes? If our value would be based on likes, then yes, it would be horrible, right? But like, how are they converting this into actual sales or whatever it is that they do? Because I have no idea what they do. They just put a picture and it has, all these things, but what actual value are they giving people, right? Not to say that what I give is more valuable than what they do, right? I'm not saying that, but it's just to be realistic, because I think a lot of kids growing up now just see that and think that's the real world until they get their first sales job, or they're like, oh, I'm going to start this business and it's all going to be fire, as they say, right? Like very, very simple and this and that. And that's not reality. A lot of times people think having your own business is, oh, I work from 10 in the morning to 2 o'clock and then I go have a drink or something, whatever, lay by the beach, right? But I don't know if this happens to you guys, but I oftentimes work more than 40 hours a week. I'm not saying that's the normal, right? But there are certain weeks, depending what I'm doing, that I might have to work more than other weeks, But then again, I do have that flexibility with my time that, hey, if I want to take a Wednesday off and go jump around at the zoo, I can go do that,
Right. That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. Well, being an entrepreneur for sure is not a 40-hour-a-week job. If you're trying to run a business and if you're trying to create something, like, yeah, you're up you're working from the moment your head comes off the pillow to the moment it goes back on the pillow at night, and again, going back to leveraging your time, it's important to find ways where you can get, your content or your voice or your sales process or automations, whatever it may be, do things, create systems and processes around your business that can help you leverage your time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because
And I always say, if you don't know how to do it, YouTube, I'm glad for all these people that put tutorials. I'm like, why do they do this free? Thank you. I appreciate that. YouTube, or like go hire somebody on Upwork or Fiverr if you don't know how to do it, and leverage that as well. I did mention, some weeks I work more than others, but I have this like anti-hustling mentality, because I feel like that just drains people, and everybody's like hustle and grind and all these words. And I'm like, if you look up the word grind on the dictionary and what it really means, I don't think you want to live your life like that every day
Yeah.
for a prolonged period of time, because you're just going to burn out. So I think, yeah, maybe a day or two you need to grind out of like the month, right? But you need to be organized, have a schedule, take breaks, do whatever you need to do, because that 24/7 mentality is not going to lead anywhere positive.
100%.
It's a short term. It's a sprint, not a marathon thought. And so it sounds like you're more focused on productivity, doing the right things, not doing all the things, and being. And so I definitely appreciate that angle. I mean, I have a hard time not hustling in the sense of 24/7. My thoughts are always on it. I'm always trying to think about the next game. I'm always trying to think about how we're going to switch the strategy, how we're going to evolve things. If I got clients, I'm waking up like, oh, here's this idea for the client, right? Like, so, but what you do, like, and that's a part of it that you love, that you can't help, right? That calls you to be a rising entrepreneur. And then there's the parts of, okay, but how many hours a day do I spend doing this, and when do I give my mind a break? Like, how do I do this so that when I come to attack the situation, this thing I've been thinking about, and take action, I can do it with all my energy and all my might, get it done, rest, figure out the next thing, come back and hit it hard. So it's not about not hitting it hard, but it's about resting in between.
Yeah, that's definitely a great point there, Nathan. Yeah. It's about being productive and not being busy. I think we live in a society where it's like, oh, what are you up to? Oh, I've been so busy. You ask them, oh, yeah, busy doing what? Like, I don't know, this and that. And it's like, no, you wasted your whole day.
Yeah. No, don't you know that busy is a badge of honor we get to wear around?
Yeah. Right.
Like, I'm busy, guys. I'm busy. Don't, it's cool. I'm busy. Like, don't worry about me.
Right.
Busy means, for a lot of people, busy means important.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? And like, and it's interesting because like, I know somebody, I won't say who they are, but that is.
You're talking about me, right?
No, not you, but they would know exactly what I'm talking about. So, but where no matter what, it's like they're so busy. But like, But then you call and it's like, I'm so frantic. I got all these things going on. But then you look and it's like, but how'd you find, time to go to Europe? You know what I mean? How'd you find time to, so it's not that it's a bad thing to do, but you got to look at it like, are you wearing busy as a badge of honor? Because if you were good enough that you can find weeks to travel and go around the world, you were good. Like it's not, you're not just overly busy. Like it's that whole, I've always got a million things going on. And if I don't, then like, I don't feel like I'm doing stuff.
Yeah. You're
And it
not
doesn't
worthy.
matter.
You're not value. Right. Yeah.
That's right. And I just feel like, sometimes it's like, man, if you took 5 deep breaths and realize that you don't have to just be busy all the time when you're not on vacation. It doesn't have to be all, and so it's an interesting way to look at it.
Yeah. So like,
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Lorena.
Go ahead, Corey. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask you, Nathan, you want to jump into the next little section there?
I do. And so this is a new addition for season 2 that we're really excited about. And so basically, as a rising entrepreneur, you have traveled a broken road to build your business. And on that broken road, you've seen perils that no one else has seen. And going through those perils, you've picked out pearls of wisdom to help you either avoid that peril or get you out of it. And so this section is called Perils and Pearls, where we want to know what's the biggest peril that you've overcome as a rising entrepreneur that can help other people.
That's a fantastic question there, Nathan. I would say definitely, back in 08, 09 during the recession, in insurance, we were hit very hard because at that time, we were doing a lot of what's known as mortgage protection, which is basically, you bought a house, so you buy a life insurance to cover the mortgage if something happens to you, right? So your family has the money to pay off the mortgage or continue paying the bills, right? So we were doing great with that. It was a great marketing strategy for us, And then, well, the house market crashed, and man, that hit hard because it was things lapsing. So like in insurance, if something lapses in the first year, they want their money back, what the insurance company paid, right? So that was a big hit. And then people they didn't have money to buy policies and things like that. So definitely one of my biggest learning lessons from that is to not have everything in one basket, So that was our thing, like our niche, So I now try and diversify, it's still life insurance, but hey, if you're a business owner, you need life insurance because if something happens, how's your business going to continue, If you have a partnership, it's important to have life insurance, each of you, because maybe you don't want the spouse coming in now and taking over that business, right? So, and these are things that I learned valuably as well from my dad that I mentioned earlier, because he was a business owner and I noticed he didn't have any of these things in place when he got sick, So yeah, definitely be flexible in what you do and be able to pivot, like before the Affordable Care Act came out, if you ask me about health insurance, I had like one company that I represented because they were the most affordable one. And, it's what people here in Miami could afford and it was good, But I didn't really believe in health insurance because I'm like, people can't afford it. They don't cover people that really need it, diabetics or people with high blood pressure. It was a big issue, that a lot of people that are healthy today, they don't know even what I'm talking about, So when that came out, I'm like, oh, this is great because it's going to help a lot of people, and now they can afford it. So when that came out, I jumped on it as well with my mom 7 years ago now that it started, So always be on the lookout for new opportunities. And I always say, what's your purpose behind what you do? Because I could have easily quit doing insurance. At the time I did get a job in marketing in another company because, hey, we needed to pay the bills. And if insurance wasn't going to do it, then I need to do something. But I still, on the weekends or at night, I would still call my clients, make appointments, I would still do it because it's what I was passionate about, So your why behind things, I think, is really important, and it's what's going to drive you through tough times. If you're doing it just for the money, forget it. That's not going to, you might be successful a year or two, but not in the long run,
I love that.
Yeah.
I mean, so the pearls that come out, and this is super, super relevant to today, right? Is in rapidly changing times. That was the housing market crash. We got Corona and whatever economic whirlwinds coming after this, right? And so things are going to shift, things are going to change, and you've got to be able to pivot. You got to be able to move agilely and shift. And so that is huge, huge, huge. And then that is the thing, that why is part of it. That's the golden thread, right? That kind of that weaves together the through line, right? If you know the why of what you're doing, then wherever the pivot goes, that golden thread holds a through line of what you're doing, and it makes sense. As long as it makes sense to what you're doing, you add diversity. Yeah, I don't know. That was really, really good advice.
Yeah,
That's
that's
really relevant for today, and thank you for that.
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, thank you, Lorena. And that is like something that we are so in alignment with as well, Nathan and I, because everything starts with your why. Everything has, and if you don't know your why, this is really where we step in. If you don't know your why, we help you kind of figure it out by really diving deep into your story. Because the reality is if you can't pinpoint that, when in times get tough, you're going to fall apart, right?
Mhm.
You're gonna, it's just, you're gonna give up, and it's not gonna work out for you, because running a business, being an entrepreneur is not easy. And there are times where you literally will sit there in the mirror and be like, why the F am I doing this? Like,
Yeah.
it's like, what am I doing? Why am I making my life so difficult and miserable to try and build this business? Well, that's where the why really comes into play. So I really appreciate that you mentioned that. And then one other thing, again, being relevant in the time, I think not putting all your eggs in one basket is a piece of advice that cannot be taken seriously enough. All right. Especially right now. This is just kind of one of my things that I see in the future, but we're talking, a lot of people are talking a lot about Facebook and how easy it is to build a business on Facebook, and, Facebook, right? Well, if you go and you build everything on top of Facebook, and then Facebook goes away, what are you going to do? Right. And that is going to happen. I'm just going to put it out there. That will happen one day. Facebook's going to change. Now, whether it just goes away or whatever, I don't know, but something is going to change there. And the way that, business has been running, status quo, all of a sudden there's going to be millions of business owners that get turned upside down because they've got all their eggs in this one Facebook basket. And so I love what you said about diversifying, looking at other opportunities, looking at other options. And for everyone listening, please take this advice seriously. If you have all your eggs in one basket, immediately start considering where are some other places that you can start to put out, revenue streams and marketing streams and distribution and that kind of a thing.
Let me throw in a quick analogy there. So if you've got your business and you got a well that you're able to tap into and it keeps you from being thirsty, let me promise you that the best time to dig a well is when you have some water to replenish yourself while you're digging. So you know what I mean? And spend 80% of your time maintaining that well, and spend 20% of your time digging for new wells and finding new opportunities. Now, let's just rewind real quick. If you were more in the beginning of this rising entrepreneur journey and you have a tendency to want to do 732 things, that's not what we mean by diversity. You need to find your one niche. You need to find your one thing that you do really well that people will come to you and know you for. And then once you have that, then you diversify off of that. Right? You can do things that are in totally different markets, but you've got to have one thing in order. Otherwise, you not only grind, but you get nothing done. Right? And you start just spinning wheels because I need diversity. You don't need diversity until you have something that works. You need laser vision till you get one thing. Once you have one thing, then you can work on diversity. I think that's important for us scatterbrain, want to do everything rising entrepreneurs out there. I put myself square up in
100%.
that thing.
Yeah, I
Right,
live
right.
there too.
Yeah, and to Corey's point, I definitely agree with like the Facebook thing. Like, no, Facebook is a tool that you can use, but you need to know that person's email and their phone number. To me, a phone number, I don't know, is more important than an email, because I don't know, emails, I barely open them, but you call me or you send me a text, I look at that right away, right? So it's important to have, if if your Facebook business page is where your clients go, hey guys, let me get your information so I can send you something, let's make this more personable, right? Um, and yeah, and definitely Nathan, what you said, the 80-20 rule, is totally key because, and having one thing, because if not, you're gonna be like all over the place and you can't, it's impossible. Like, oh, what are you gonna talk to this person about and that other person? And at the end of the day, we do business with people, not with businesses or not with computers or whatever. Those are just tools that help us do things. But
Right.
yeah,
That's great.
yeah.
That's a great way to wrap it up. So Lorena, I got a question for you. Let's shift gears a little bit. Now, talking as the business owner, as the entrepreneur running your insurance business, what are some things right now? It's a crazy time, but what are some things right now that you're excited about in terms of maybe some new opportunities you see coming down the pipeline, or ways that you're going to expand your business throughout all of this craziness that's happening?
Yeah, so I think I've always been a big proponent on centers of influence, or like developing relationships with other professionals that we can refer business to each other. So I've kind of like stopped doing that a little bit, but I feel like that's something I'm excited about, reaching out to these people and new people, right? To start referring business to each other once things are getting back to normal, right? Um, and I'm just excited with all the changes I see in my industry. They're making things a lot easier than ever. Like for life insurance now, people can get like up to $1 million in coverage without needing to do a medical exam, which is a big deal because a lot of times people don't want to do a medical exam to get
Right.
life insurance. So it's a great way to get that thing that you've been putting off, off your checklist. And then I do think there are going to be changes in health insurance that are going to be positive. That's just in what I do, right? But like personally, I just think all of this is going to be a positive change, right? A lot of people are realizing, hey, I can work from home. Like, why do I have to go to this office every day? Like I have this theory that I've had for a long time, not just now, but that eventually offices and that type of 9 to 5 world is going to disappear, because what do? You drive in traffic all day to get somewhere to sit in front of a computer. Well, why can't I get like a company computer that they can see everything I do, so it's not like I'm there
Surfing
wasting
Facebook
my
all day.
time on Facebook. So I think it's going to be a positive change, and I think also it's going to help a lot of people pivot into what they actually want to do with their lives, because a lot of times
I
people
love that.
just have a job to have a job. I get it, we all have bills to pay, but why not do something you really enjoy?
I love what you're saying there.
I
This really
love
is
it.
shaking up the apple cart, and it's making people kind of reevaluate their situation and sort of their choices in life. And
Yeah.
is this really actually what I want to be doing? Am I actually happy? And I think that's one of the best questions we can ask ourselves on a personal level. Am I actually happy doing what I'm doing? So that's awesome. And I agree, business relationships are the way to grow your business. I mean, you have to think more than just how can I get another client today? It's like, how can I expand my reach? How can I expand, my network and my influence? So that's a brilliant place to be.
Who
And I
needs my
just
help
had an
today?
idea. Oh, I'm sorry, Nathan, 1 second. I just had an idea while you were talking, and I'm sure you're probably already aware of this, Lorena, but you mentioned some changes that are happening in the insurance space that's making it easier for people to get insurance, specifically because of the shutdown and the way that the world is running right now. If you create content around those changes and around how easy it is for people to get this insurance and stuff like that, I see that being a huge opportunity. So that was just an
Yeah,
idea that I
thank
had
you.
while you were talking.
It's something I have on my to-do list for this week, so I
For
appreciate
sure.
the reminder though. Yeah, thank you.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well,
So
all right, so tell us, so if there's people, so with your insurance, your life insurance, you just serve Florida? Are you regional? Where's the area you serve?
Yeah, so I also speak Spanish. I don't speak Creole. It's a big market here, but
yeah, that's
Spanish I
tough.
do. Yeah, so I work the entire state of Florida, and then I'm also licensed in Nebraska, which I know sounds weird, but but I saw there was a need there for the Hispanic market with health insurance. So I said,
That's
what? Let me get my license
There
there.
you go, seeing
So I had to
opportunities.
venture to get my license in all 50 states because, unless somebody calls me and says I'm really interested, then I'll do that. But it's not, I don't see it as a necessity right now. for me.
No, that's beautiful. That's brilliant. I mean, and that's slowly slipping eggs into your basket without throwing them all in there and breaking the other ones, right? Because if you throw too many eggs in the basket at one time, you're gonna break the ones at the bottom. And so, placing them in there gently like that, having Nebraska and Florida. So if you're in Nebraska, if you're in Florida, bilingual, you can help. You're really trying to help people secure
Yeah.
their finances. How do they get a hold of you? Where do they find you?
Sure. So you can visit my website. It's malmins.com. And then on all social media, it's malmins22. But the best way really is to just send me a text or give me a call, business hours, okay? at 786-236-1792.
Awesome.
It's
We will
awesome. I
definitely
love that
link all
availability
of that
and
stuff.
just
Oh, I'm sorry. I just want to make sure everybody knows we'll link all of those resources and notes down in the show notes down below and in the description. So you guys can definitely check out Lorena.
yeah, and I love that availability, right? And that willingness to connect. Like that's huge. If you want because I have a hard time getting a hold of just in my business insurance, right? And I got with whatever company. It's like, I mean, I never have a problem getting the bills, but if I need to get somebody, like, it just seems like, I mean, I got the office phone number, but are they there? Are they
Right.
around? And so I'm just, if you have somebody in this industry that really is willing to give you their number, sit down with you at any time and talk to you, that's a huge value. And so
It
Yeah.
really, it
And
really
then,
is. Yeah. I mean, I just want to give from my experience too, in dealing with insurance, like it's important to have somebody that you can actually talk to that knows your situation. They know your like everything, your finances, your family, and they know what's going on with you so that they can actually take care of you in the way that you want to be taken care of. And obviously that's what you're doing for your clients. So I really appreciate that.
thank you for that, Corey. And I always say, like, every family, every business is not the same as their neighbor, as their friends, right? So it's definitely a one-on-one consultation. And
Right.
yes, we ask a ton of questions because we need to know to make sure that I'm a broker. So what that means is that I represent different insurance companies. And I love that because it means I can find the solution that's perfect for this client. Yeah.
I love that. And I spoke with a broker, and so for people that are as ignorant as I am about this, like I go deep with the things I go deep on, but I didn't understand. I mean, the difference of a broker or going to Nationwide or State Farm, or going to one, right? If you go to one insurance company, they're obligated to sell you the insurance that they sell, whatever package it's their company and them, because that's all they have, right? And so
Whether
when
it's
you only have
good for
one
you
thing,
or not, right?
that's right. That's right. Because it's what I have. So I'm gonna sell you what I have. Where a broker comes in and I mean, the person that I learned this from, I mean, he was on the other side watching people make claims on their home and then not be able to make those claims because somebody didn't tell him that the extra $30 was going to protect this thing. And after, so many years of that, he's like, this is ridiculous. I feel every time I got to circle the part that they could have just initialed, you know what I mean? And then, so then he became, I want to help people. And so when you're dealing with insurance, deal with the broker who has access to other companies, because what they do is they look at, from what I understand, is they look at your situation, your needs, and then they find the best package that fits that. Because what I didn't know is that what I learned is State Farm doesn't like teenage drivers. Just for example, so when our teenagers got put on our policy, our number, it quadrupled. Like at first it was okay, and then we got a speeding ticket and it quadrupled. Took the
Right.
teenagers off and they're like, okay, it's affordable again. But there's other companies that don't mind teenagers. They just don't want you speeding. So they put a thing in there. They don't want accidents. They don't care. So but if you don't know that, if you don't know the companies who likes what, and there's no way you can possibly know that if you're not in the industry. And if
Right.
you don't know what your needs are and how the things, there's no way you can make those decisions on your own. You need somebody that can do it. And so when you look at a broker who's got access, they can really formulate a plan for you, not for the company they serve.
Exactly. Yeah. I always tell my clients I work for you. Yes, I work for the companies, right? But like, I don't have a favorite company or, each company has their niche, right? Maybe if you have a health condition, I'm going to go to this company, right? It all depends, and that's really what I like. I might take longer than somebody that works at XYZ company, but you know that when I come back to you, it's because I spent, 30 minutes, an hour looking for what the best solution is. And then, on my website, we have what we call a 3D process, which is, it's all with these, but it's basically at the end, the person gets to decide what they want to do, because now they have information with which to do that. People love to say, oh, I'll just Google that, and this and that. I'm like, sure, you want to spend, a whole weekend doing that, go ahead. But we're licensed, we're certified, we have to get trainings every year with the companies to continue selling. We know what's going on.
Well, yeah,
So
you don't go to the dentist and they go, here's a tray full of tools and here's a drill and like a mirror and just go to town. Like, no, you need somebody that's going to help you out and
right.
actually, and like, again, like you just mentioned, like you work for your clients, and technically I would say you don't work for these companies. You just have access to them, right? You've gone through the training and the time required and the schooling and stuff to have that access. And now you're bringing it to your clients and you're like, okay, how can I help you guys? I have access to all these different resources and tools for you and support. Let me find, what's going on in your situation, and we'll pair you up with something that matches. And, it's just, I love that we had this conversation, because I think traditionally, like we started out, insurance is one of those things that's just kind of boring. People don't want to talk about it. They don't want to think about it. It's like, oh, it's just kind of something I have to do. But I'm glad that we opened up the conversation today to hopefully shed some light on the fact that it's necessary, for one, and B, it's not as boring as it doesn't have to be that way. Let's put it that way. When you find a good broker and you find somebody that actually cares about you, then you can get the service that you're looking for. So I really appreciate your time today, Lorena. I think this has been a really eye-opening call, I know, for me, in terms of insurance and stuff like that, and hopefully for everybody listening too.
So I got one more question. So we got to wrap it up because it's getting to the end of the hour.
Yeah.
And what I want to know is, we discovered you gave us some brilliant pearls of wisdom. So now we have one more, and so basically what this comes from Corey, a question Corey always asks all the guests. We want one final pearl of wisdom. If you had 2 minutes with yourself 10, 15 years ago, 5 years ago, if you could go back, what is the one pearl of wisdom you would give to yourself to propel you forward, different than what you gave earlier?
Yeah, that's a great question, I guess. I would say I would tell my younger self, do more than what you think you need to do, because sometimes we underestimate how many calls we need to make or how many people we need to talk to, right, to get a sale. Because with time, your closing ratio will get better, right? Like, I don't need to talk to 30 people to get one sale. I maybe just need to talk to 2, right? But because I have that experience now. So yeah, definitely don't underestimate what how long it's going to take and how many people you need to reach out to. And then I would also say be patient. And that's still something I'm learning to this day, because like I said, I'm impatient now with my clients and things like that. Just sometimes I think things should be a little bit quicker than they are, right? Things like that. But I always ask myself, well, is that something I can control? No. So then if I've done everything I can, then, there's nothing left to do but to be patient and wait, I guess,
That's perfect. I love it.
That's great advice. Thank you so much.
Yeah, very good. Well, thank you again, Lorena. This has been a lot of fun, and we definitely appreciate your time on the show. And again, everybody listening, if you guys need help with your insurance, if you're in the Florida area, or where else was it? I'm sorry?
Nebraska.
Nebraska, where Warren Buffett is from.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. So where Warren Buffett's at, if you guys need insurance or help with your insurance, or you want somebody just to look over what you got and make sure that you're in the right place, definitely check out Lorena. We'll have all of that stuff linked down below so you can get in touch with her. And as well as check out her podcast too, the 12-Minute Talks podcast. So Lorena, thank you again so much for coming on the show. We really appreciate you. And I guess we'll catch you on the next one.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on, Corey and Nathan. It was fun.
Absolutely.